Yes. Testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing. Are we good? Okay. Well, welcome to all the councillors in attendance at this annual meeting of the Parish Council. We're holding it in the chamber, and members of the public can be watching it on the live stream link. I'd like to remind everybody that it's being conducted in accordance with our standing orders. You all know the exits. No fire alarms planned for tonight, so we meet outside the Chinese if one does go off. Can I please ask all councillors to confirm that they've received the documentation for this evening? Thank you. And I'll remind you that the correct etiquette for meetings is the raising and counting of hands, and this being made clear to the executive officer. Now, we're going to start, and the first item is to elect the chairman of the council and the signing of acceptance of office. Now, this evening, do you want to explain the situation?
So prior to the meeting, I've just circulated an email just advising on the voting protocols, what's in our standing orders in the process. To confirm, we have, or where we have received more than one nomination for a specific role, whether chair, vice chair of council or committees, I have emailed those. So sent an email to all councillors, then I've emailed any councillors where there's more than one, to give the opportunity to prepare a short 2-minute verbal presentation, just as we do with sort of with appointment or co-option of councillors for vacancies. So where the in our standing orders, the chairman of the meeting starts with the current chairman, and then first item is to elect the chairman of the council. So 2 nominations have been received, or nominations have received for councillors Derek Moore and Nikki Knott. So a vote will be required.
Right, okay. And in line with what Justin has just said, I've prepared a short statement. As most of you know, I was propelled into the chair through the resignation of 2 previous chairs. My driver in becoming a councillor was to help ensure that the people of Southwater received the best from their parish council, which helps make Southwater such a lovely place to live in. And it wasn't through any personal ambition. Since the appointment, I've given a significant amount of my time to promote and improve the council, playing a large part in the changes and improvements we've achieved. This includes running the monthly Saturday surgery, for which the vice chair has always supported me when I can't make it. And we've always run that surgery since I've been chair. And I believe that I've got a very low level of providing apologies for non-attendance. When I look at the record of number of meetings I've attended, it's been very high. Southwater is likely to face some big decisions over the next few years regarding the local authority restructure and devolution process, which is now underway. A few months ago, I wrote to councillors asking for your support to help me continue as chair during this time. It was also to remind us that we needed stability during this time, as disruption to the process is likely to cause unrest and conflict. We saw what happened to one political party when they couldn't remain focused on the main issues in front of them. We've also just applied for gold status, and we must not allow any disruption to deflect us from this. Therefore, my plea to you is for me to continue with our current councillor structure, with our focus to be on getting the best from the impending changes for Southwater and the people of Southwater. And I'll leave it up to the other councillors who may be standing to decide whether or not they wish to continue with this this situation. Thank you.
Councillor Knott.
Hi everyone. I wasn't actually expecting to speak tonight, but I have prepared a few words. I don't want to simply repeat what I shared in my email last week. However, I'd just like to reflect and share my thoughts. I've had the privilege of serving as a councillor for nearly 7 years. During that time, I've witnessed significant changes both within Southwater and the council itself. Some of you may recall that I've taken 2 sabbaticals, but throughout it all I've remained committed. I've never walked away from the council. In recent times, I feel that we haven't always been portrayed in the best light. With devolution just around the corner, it's more important than ever that we shift this narrative. While I agree with Derek on the need for stability, I also feel that we need a fresh start and a new chair to bring renewed energy and rebuild trust with the residents of Southwater. Our village has changed dramatically over the past few years, and devolution could lead to a wave of new planning applications. We must be proactive, united and ready to advocate for what's best for our community without leaving Southwater exposed or vulnerable. Before joining the council, I served as chair of governors at a local school. While I may not have all the conventional experience for the role of chair, I do bring leadership, a strong sense of responsibility and the ability to work collaboratively. With the continued support of our dedicated staff, I believe I can help guide us through the changes ahead. I was saddened by the recent resignations of 2 dedicated female councillors who have contributed so much to our community. I respect their decisions, but I also recognise the challenge that women, particularly working women, often face in roles like these. As a female chair, I feel I could help attract more diverse applicants to fill vacancies and to better reflect the wider community. Whatever the outcome tonight, I remain committed to working hard for Southwater and to supporting Justin and the team in every way I can. Thank you.
May I ask a question?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. In the email that you sent out for Councillor Moore, it was it revolved around devolution more than anything else. Since devolution is probably not going to take place until April 2028, is this decision just for a single year or is it for continuous years?
Take it that's directed to me. Yes, yes, yeah. No, to see us through so that we can get through this, and I would remain in position as long as I was able to, and as long as I had the support of the council.
So is that to 2028 or is that just for this year?
Well, if it means up until 2028, then it would be up until 2028. But if in that process that it became clear that where we were going, and then a change could take place without any disruption, then I would hope to have sort of served. I think you served about 7 years as chair. I would hope to serve not as much as that, but at least enough to make sure we were on the right path.
Thank you for that.
Could I ask a question, Nikki, please? You've said that the council is not being seen in good light by the people of the parish. Now, is that as a criticism of the executive officer, or what is it a criticism of?
No, it's not a criticism of anything. I mean, Justin knows I have always fully supported him and his staff, and I still do. And I think the council PR has been great over recent months. I think us as a body of councillors don't always come across in the best light. In some recent meetings and stuff, I think, and we can all see what is said on Facebook. I just sometimes think that we are I think an awful lot of people perceive us as a bunch of people that look after trees and don't do much else. So I wasn't criticising anybody. It's my opinion that maybe we aren't always seen as the most proactive bunch of councillors sometimes.
And that is for individual councillors to work together and ensure that we are working towards serving the people of Southwater.
Yes.
Yes. Right. Yes.
Can I just clarify? Are we voting for a chair until this time next year, or are we voting for a chair for 3 years? Because I don't understand the 28. This sounds like an anomalous idea to me.
The annual meeting of the council, we will be following what's in our standing orders. So we will be re-electing chairman and the various positions as we do each year. Come 2027, May, we'll have elections. So some of the councillors that are here may not remain here, depending on whether it's an uncontested election or contested election. So there's no guarantees. But to clarify, the vote this evening is for the chair between now and the next annual meeting of the council.
Yes.
So do any councillors have any further questions for either Councillor Knott or Councillor Moore? On that basis, then I'd suggest we proceed to a vote. So those in favour of Councillor Moore as chairman? Those in favour of Councillor Knott? Any abstentions? Okay, so the vote carries in favour of Councillor Moore.
Thank you. Right.
Just arrange the signing of the Declaration of Acceptance of Office. If you sign that.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you for your support in this, and that we, as a council, will continue to go ahead and serve the people of Southwater. Thank you. Our next item on the agenda is item number 43, to elect the vice chairman of the council. Can I pass over?
So, nominations have received for this position of Vice Chairman of Council for Councillors Steve Lewis and Councillor Nicky Knott. Sorry. So, two candidates for the position. So, on the same basis, verbal presentation.
Thanks, Justin. I will be brief, I promise, which I know for me is quite rare. Whilst it's healthy that positions within the council are open for change, I agree with the chairman that this is not the time for change. Let me explain. I would like to look at the future and the challenge that will face SPC. Now, some of this has already been said and addressed tonight, but I'm going to read what I wrote. The proposed changes to local government has created a massive degree of uncertainty for the parish. Who knows where we may be in 2027? If you look at the agenda, you will see an agenda item 69. Councillor Pearce and I have tabled a notice of motion to consider forming a working group to address these issues. Whilst this item will be discussed later, I mention it because I believe we need to act now in the interest of our residents to ensure the best possible outcomes for the future of Southwater. As Vice Chair of the Council, I have formed a positive working association with our county and district councillors, which will be essential in the debates to come. I also consider that I have an excellent working relationship with SPC staff. I've already been in conversation today as to the future of our wardens, which are critical in keeping Southwater a safe and happy place to live. Whilst nothing has been decided yet, I'm determined that the views of Southwater are heard at district and county level. As your Vice Chair, I'm privileged to meet on a weekly basis with our Executive Officer. These meetings have given me a good understanding of policies and procedures, which assists greatly in conversations
like the ones I've mentioned. This is why I believe that maintaining the status quo is necessary at this uncertain time. I could list the numerous committees, working groups, etc. I've been involved with this year. However, I am aware that all councillors contribute to the parish, so this is not relevant. I believe what is relevant is I have the current experience, knowledge and drive to continue being Vice Chair of SPC. Thanks for listening.
Councillor Knott, did you have anything you'd like to
No,
say, or any questions you'd like to raise?
no, I have nothing to say.
Do any councillors have any questions they'd like to ask of either Councillor Lewis or Councillor Knott?
If I may just re-answer the question that Councillor Watkins asked, then I saw this as 12 months, as this vote for 12 months, Councillor Watkins, because I know that the council has to decide every 12 months. If we have I would be happy to serve for longer, but it's down to the council.
Yeah, I mean, I specifically asked that question because of the way the email was worded that came out, and I just wanted to make everyone clear that it was the 12-month period.
Yeah, that's
right. And there would be another vote in 12 months' time. So I've got no questions to ask on the matter. You've mentioned item 69, the government reorganisation and devolution. I'll talk on that at the current time. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Right. In which case, then we need to move to a vote. Can I have a show of hands for those in favour of Councillor Steve Lewis as Vice Chair of the Parish Council?
I think so.
Any against? Sorry, those in favour of Councillor Nicky Knott as Vice Chair of the Parish Council? One. Are there any abstentions? None.
So votes carried in favour.
Votes carried in favour of Councillor Steve Lewis as being the Vice Chair of the Parish Council.
Thank you. I would like to add as well to Councillor Knott that I look forward to us working together because I know we have similar ideas in respect to the future of Southwark Parish Council, and I genuinely mean that.
Do you need? Right, thank you. Our next item on the agenda is 44, Councillors' Code of Conduct and Members' Allowances Policy to approve continued use. You've had that in the pack, and it is to approve that we continue to use that policy for this next year. So can I have a proposer and a seconder, please, for that? Proposer Ian, Councillor Ian Stannard and Councillor Lewis. All those in favour? It was unanimous. Thank you for that. We now move on to item 45, which is apologies of absence.
Apologies of absence received from Councillors Turnwell, Vickers, Villis, Councillor Cole absent, and I've also had just courtesy apologies from District Councillor Peter Vonderberg, and District Councillor Alex Jeffrey said that he'll be here 30 minutes late, so expect him to show up in the next 10-15 minutes.
Right, thank you for that. We'll now move on to item 46, declarations of interest. I'll remind you that the declaration of interest is a personal or pecuniary interest in any of the matters that are on this agenda. Can I confirm that you have no interest in these matters? There's no interest? Yes. Yes, if. So is there any, does anybody have an interest to declare? No? Right, there's no interest. We'll move on to 47, public question time.
No residents have requested to speak at this meeting.
Right, thank you. We'll now move on to item 48, which is scheme of delegation. And again, this is like the code of conduct and the member of allowances policies. We need to approve and continued use. So I need a proposer and a seconder for this, please. Councillor Lewis has proposed, Councillor Watkins has seconded. All those in favour? Councillor Stannard? Yes, that was unanimous. Thank you. We'll now move on to item 49, terms of reference, and this is for the Finance General Purposes Committee, the Planning Committee, the HR Committee, and the Health and Safety Committee. And again, this is to approve the continued use of those terms of reference for those committees. So again, can I have a proposer and a seconder, please? Councillor Pearce has proposed and Councillor Stannard has seconded. So all in favour? Again, that's a unanimous vote. Thank you for that. We'll now move on to item 50, which is appointments to subcommittees, working parties, employer bodies, and others as required for the following. Can I pass you over this?
So I understand that all of the current voting members on the F&GP committee wish to continue. That is a total of nine members. Yes, 9 members, sorry. Just wanted to check that were there any councillors that wish to come forward to join the Finance and General Purpose Committee that aren't already on it?
So that means that we can appoint up to 12, but there's 3 spaces.
If you're not sure, you don't have to decide now, but just let me know and then we can appoint you at the next meeting. On that basis, the members continue as follows. Councillor Cole, Knott, Brown, Moore, Turnwell, Watkins, Lewis, Pearce and Vickers, as per what's circulated in the pack.
Thank you. We'll now move on to 51B, which is the appointment of chairman.
So I've only received nominations for one councillor, which is Councillor Pearce. So on that basis, unless there are any last-minute proposals, if you could just do a vote on that, please.
Right. Can we have a vote in favour of Councillor Pearce continuing as chairman of the F&GP committee? Yes, that's again unanimous. We'll now move on to item 1C, which is appointment of vice chairman.
Only one councillor put forward for appointment of vice chairman, which is Councillor Brown. So
again, can we have a vote, show of hands for the appointment of Councillor Brown? Any abstentions? Any against? So that was one abstention.
okay.
We'll now move on to 52, which is the planning committee. Do you want to take us through the current?
So currently have 8 members on the committee, which I understand are willing to carry on. I have had Councillor Pearce approach and is interested in joining the planning committee, subject to being provided in-house and external training and support. And I would suggest maybe a buddying up with one of the more experienced councillors on that committee, as well as in-house training, just to ensure sort of a transition into planning. We've got some upcoming training, actually, which I'll do under my executive officer report. So subject to Councillor Pearce willing to join that committee, then that will be 9 members, unless there's anyone else.
Do we have to appoint them at the meeting, or
Yeah, it's appointment here.
It's an appointment here. Okay. So therefore, those existing members of the planning committee and Councillor Pearce as a new member of the planning committee. Are all in favour? Yes, that's unanimous. We now move on to 52, which is of the planning committee. Again, we have to appoint the chairman of the planning committee.
So only one councillor put forward or nominated for position of chairman, no other nominations, which is Councillor Watkins. So unless there's anyone else that wishes to, I would suggest moving to a vote.
Right. Can we have a vote in favour of Councillor Watkins continuing as chair as the planning committee? That's unanimous. Thank you. And under 2C, appointment of vice chairman.
So we've received nominations for Councillor Villis and Councillor Stannard for position of vice chair of the planning committee. So move to a vote.
Yes.
Would Councillor?
Would you like to say anything about it, Councillor? You look surprised. or
I'm not surprised. I'm happy to be vice chair of planning. I was on the planning committee of HDC when I was a councillor, was chairman of the overview and scrutiny committee when I was councillor. So I know my onions, but and I'm happy to, if it's a first opportunity for me to be on a particular committee as a councillor, so I'm happy to do that as a way of cutting my teeth and seeing where it goes from there.
has Councillor Villis said that he would continue in office?
He said he's happy to continue, but he's also the one nominating Councillor Stannard for vice chair.
Well, I think we'll go to a vote, and we'll for the existing vice chair of planning. Yes.
Yes, of course. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. We all have freedom to vote, and we've even got the freedom to vote for ourselves. So, can I? The proposal is the appointment of the.
Hang on. So are you saying that he is standing or not standing? Because it's a
He is standing. Yes, he has not said he wants to step down, as I take it.
Yeah.
He's so I can confirm Councillor Villis said he is happy to stay on as vice chair, but he also handed me a nomination to propose Councillor Stannard if he was prepared to do it.
One point of order, you've not on other occasions noted when somebody has put forward a appointment. So you're actually saying now basically that Councillor Villis really doesn't want to stand. I don't think that's a fair way of dealing with it, to be honest with you.
Well, he has expressed that
But
he is.
on other occasions, you've not said somebody's voted for Councillor.
Who has?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
At this meeting today?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're going to get some people voting because you think people now think that he doesn't really want to stand because he's nominated somebody else.
May I ask a question? It is a question. Are we have a chair of planning, a very experienced chair of planning, may I ask? May I say, sorry? Are we able to defer this until somebody has spoken to Councillor Villis, just as to follow what Councillor Watkins said? Because it's been put out. I will add, and it is irregular to say this, that I did speak to Councillor Villis last week, and you will know that I nominated him as chair, and he never said anything to me when because I have told everybody who I've nominated that I've nominated them. So that puts me in a difficult position because I've nominated him. So I don't know whether we can defer it or not, is what I'm saying.
Well, the planning committee can make the appointments. It has the power to make its appointments. So
I suggest that in this occasion, that's probably the best way of dealing with it.
I think
I think in view of the situation, I don't think we've got any other alternative.
I think a discussion between Councillor Villis, Stannard, myself, and maybe the chair of planning would be just to understand because if there is a willingness, yes, we'll leave it on that basis then.
Right. So on the item 2C, which was appointment of vice chairman, the council has decided to defer that to the planning committee. We now move on to the health and safety committee. And can I leave you to explain?
So, current members of the Health and Safety Committee, Councillor Cole, Councillor Knott, Councillor Watkins, Councillor Lewis and Councillor Villas. So far as I'm aware, all are prepared to continue. The appointment, we need a minimum of 5, I believe, from terms of reference, up to a maximum of 9 members. Are any other councillors prepared to join this committee?
Are the
In
existing
which
members
case,
willing
just-
to continue?
Yeah,
So,
we'll just note those
so we'll
members.
note that the appointment, the existing members are continuing. We now move on to B, which is appointment of chairman.
Mr Chairman, can I propose that committee appoints its chairman and vice chairman like it did previously? Because Councillor Villis was appointed chairman of that committee, and I think probably with him not being here, and you haven't probably got any other appointments for chairman or vice chairman.
Have we had any other appointments on the health and safety committee? Any proposals?
There is a proposal for Councillor Villas as chair of that committee by a member of that is on that committee, and then a proposal for a vice chair, but so we could deal with it now. Or just-
So Councillor Villas is proposed as chair, and he has said that he's
Well, we don't know whether
continuing
he's
to
willing to
stand.
stand, do we?
Well, and you know if he has
He has
confirmed
verbally
his-
confirmed with me that he's happy to continue with all the positions he's already currently on.
Okay.
But if we're unsure as he's not present at this meeting, then we can leave it to the committee to appoint its chair and vice chair. at
What
its
I was
first
suggesting, to be
meeting.
honest with you, it seems the easiest way of dealing with it because it's a specialist committee.
And in view of us making that decision on the planning committee, then we can do the same again for the health and safety.
You need to take a vote on my proposal. It needs to be seconded as well.
Yeah, can I just ask the question, why, Councillor Hawkins? Why?
Well,
You said
because-
it's a specialist committee.
Yeah.
Well, how does it differ?
Specialises in health and safety.
Yes,
To be honest,
but
that is remit of Councillor Villis. His remit is health and safety, so
if he's
he's
willing
willing
to
to
continue,
stand.
why would we have?
I think it's because Councillor Villas isn't present at the meeting and cannot confirm. Councillor Lewis?
Sorry, I have spoken, I mean, this is only my word, obviously, and Councillor Villis isn't here, and I totally agree. I did speak with Councillor Villis, and I proposed Councillor Villis because I was aware that he wanted to stand, and I proposed him.
And he said
Yes,
to
he
you
did,
he's
but
willing to
I also
stand.
take on board what Councillor Watkins is saying,
Yeah.
so, you know.
It would be just as simple to let the committee decide on who's doing what.
But you've also said that he has said he is willing to
I
stand
think
as
for
chair.
consistency, how the item of vice chair has been dealt with for the planning committee, then I don't see the harm in waiting for the health and safety committee to have its next meeting and appoint its chair and vice chair if it's appointing from one of its members. So
however, it's not the same as planning, is it? Because there's only one person that wants to stand for chair. So it seems to me that that is the suggestion. If we're it's not being consistent with deputy chair. There was 2.
On the basis that Councillor Lewis has had confirmation of Councillor Villas, and you've also said that you've received his acceptance as standing as chair for the Health and Safety Committee, I think can we vote to say that he remains chair of the Health and Safety Committee. So all those in favour of Councillor Villis standing as chair of the Health and Safety Committee, that's unanimous. We now move on to the appointment of vice chair of the Health and Safety Committee. Who is the existing vice chair?
I've got a nomination for Councillor Lewis. No other nominations.
No other nomination. So can I have a proposal for Councillor Lewis as vice chair of the Health and Safety Committee?
Is it a proposal or a vote?
A vote.
It's a vote.
Yes, that's unanimous. Right, we'll now move on to the HR committee, and that's appointment of 6 members. Now, those members come from the existing committees, so
Just noting the terms of reference.
it's just
so
noting the terms of reference.
members will be the chairman and vice chairman of council, chairman and vice chairman of FGP and planning committee.
And of course, the planning committee will be decided on their first meeting.
Just a quick question. Of anything that we do, that's probably the closest expertise I have. And if I'm not allowed to sit on it, that's fine. If I'm elected by the person who nominated me, that's also fine. So I suspect it's neither here nor there, but it is my area of expertise.
Well, I think that will be down to the planning committee when they meet and elect the vice chair of the planning.
Mr Chairman, we can actually appoint additional people to the HR committee if required and for special reasons. So,
Yes.
So whether Councillor Stannard's voted vice chair of planning, he could still be appointed to that committee at a later date by the committee itself.
Yes. And was everybody clear on that? The HR committee has that power to bring on members. Thank you. Right, we'll now move on to the pre-application panel, and that's appointment of 6 members. Do you want to explain?
It's same as so
The HR
chairman and vice
committee.
chairman of council, chairman and vice chairman of both FGP and then of the planning committee. I know from previous discussions with Councillor Cole, as he said, he'd be happy to stand in situations where a member of the council is not available because of his prior
background.
planning experience. Yeah.
Right,
Also worth noting, Mr Chairman, that that's a meeting during the day, not in the evening.
right.
Yeah, if I may, I note that it's I note to the people on it and that is a very specialist planning committee. I sit in it. I'd be very happy for Councillor Cole to take my place because of his experience, and I think that's relevant to certainly to the plan application. Because I'm vice chair of the council doesn't make me in any way knowledgeable about planning, and I think that that's important to note. And I'd be very happy for somebody to take my place who's better experience.
I think the panel has the appointment of 6 members, and those are defined as chairman and vice chairman. But whether or not the panel can include Councillor Cole.
It's an informal panel. It's if a member is not available and we want the expertise,
Then we can.
yeah, Councillor Cole has attended on previous occasions.
That's fine. Thank you for that. We'll now move on to item 6, which is
Mr Chairman, before you move on that one, could the executive officer check the terms of reference for the pre-application committee, just in case it is an addition to it, and that could be brought back before council to have additional people on it? I can't remember the terms of reference.
terms of reference.
Thank you.
on it, yes. We'll now move on to item 6, which is Southwater Neighbourhood Plan Consultation Group. Note members and consider appointment of members on the steering group if required.
So I understand it will just be the same members as is, which are Councillors Cole, Moore, Turnwell, Vickers, Watkins, and so those were the councillors and a resident, John Mace.
And that's just for noting members and considering any amendments. Are there any amendments for those, or all those members are willing to continue in office? Right, thank you for that. Item 7, Southwater Emergency Plan. Note and consider any appointments, amendments and coordinators as required. Are there any changes?
There's just, well, the coordinators that are councillors are as follows: Councillor Knott, Everard, Vickers, Watkins, Pearce and Villis. And then there are officers of the council prescribed in the emergency plan as well.
Right. That's noted. We now move on to item 8, Neighbourhood Warden Steering Group. And note the members on the steering group.
As per what's in the pack, so councillors Pearce and Lewis.
Right, and those two councillors are willing to continue to stay on that group. Thank you, that's noted. Item number 9, Climate Action Working Group.
So I've had Councillor Nikki Knott, Councillor Erica Haddon come forward to be appointed to the working party, and also the organisation Sustainable Southwater Ladies, plus the officers of the council.
Plus the officers. Are there any other councillors who wish to join that group? No? All right, those appointments are noted. We now move on to item 10, Parish Design Statement Review Working Group. Note members and appoint or amend.
So as per the members in the pack, so Councillor Watkins, Villis, Everard, Moore, unless there are any other councillors who've come forward. I haven't had any correspondence otherwise, so suggest noting.
Okay, thank you. And those are the 4 required. We'll now move on to the last which is item 11, non-signatory to verify bank reconciliations and statements to note. And that's,
There was another committee, Mr Chairman, the F&GP Investigative Working Party, which is on the list, which is not on.
it's not on the agenda.
Right. So does it not exist anymore?
It's still on what was circulated in the pack, so it still exists, and it hasn't concluded the work it was
set
terms
up.
of reference has been set out for.
Don't you have to approve these people moving forward?
This is just to appoint the members and amendments and any changes. So the council, as far as I'm aware, hasn't resolved to disband the working group, and it is in the pack. But unfortunately it has been missed off this agenda. So if there are any changes or amendments that have come forward that I'm not aware of, then please let me know, and then I'll make sure it's on the next agenda.
Right. The next item the 11, which is the non-signatory to verify bank reconciliations and statements. To note that Councillor Knott and Brown as the appointed non-signatory verifiers, and that's just to continue.
It's just noting.
And that's noted. We now move on to item 51, council representatives. So this is to note the council representatives and approve any new appointments or amendments as required. Southwater Guild CIO, there's between 2 and 4 members. Those members are?
So it's, if you turn to... That's right. So current council appointed representatives to continue are Councillor Watkins, Councillor Moore and Councillor Cole.
Yes, I've got a page missing out from that. So those appointments are to continue, and it's just to be noted. Is there any change to that?
So far
No.
as well. So
We now move on to item 2 of that, and that's the Guild Project Liaison Group. There's 2 members and a chairman with no voting rights.
So currently we have Councillor Pearce and there is a vacancy left by Councillor Flores Moore, so that needs filling.
What does that do?
So it meets every 6 months to discuss Schedule 7 of the Leisure Management Agreement. So it's to provide updates and then feed those back to council as and when required. That's a very sort of abridged version, but I can provide you more information on it.
I'll do it.
It's worth noting that the majority of times those meetings are during the day.
Ironically, that's easier for me because my nightmare is always in the evening.
In the evenings. That's good. That's a good fit then. We now move on to Village Hall. There are 2 members of the Village Hall, which are council-appointed trustees, and that is Erica Haddon and myself. I would like to stand down from there if there is another councillor that would like to replace me as the Village Hall trustee. Don't all rush.
I'm very happy to do that again. You are aware, of course, that my wife is a trustee of that as well. But I am happy to do it if you are that busy that you need to step down.
I don't see there would be a conflict of interest on that.
We're just appointing the council representative, so if there are any, that would be for the Village Hall charity to deal with.
Charity to deal with. In which case, can I then agree that Councillor Steve Lewis takes over my role as council-appointed trustee for the Village Hall? Thank you. The next is the Horsham Association of Local Councils. That's HALC. There are 2 members there. Those currently are Councillor Watkins and myself as chair. I'm happy to continue with that, and so is Councillor Watkins. The next is Age UK. Currently 1 member, and that's Councillor Claire Vickers. I haven't heard from her that she wants to stand down.
So she's emailed me to say she's happy to continue with everything.
She's happy to continue, right. The next is County, District and Parish Policing and Neighbourhood Watch, 1 member and 1 officer. At the moment, that's Councillors Chris Pearce, Stephen Lewis and the Executive Officer. Are you all willing to continue on those roles? Yes? Thank you. The next is West Sussex County Council Local Area Committee. And there are 2 members of that, and that's Councillor Lewis and myself. And we will continue on as though that committee. Southwater Road Safety Partnership. Now, there are currently 2 members, Councillor Nicola Brown and myself, on it. Again, I would like to step down on this if at all possible. Are there any other councillors that would like to get involved with the Road Safety Partnership? And that this would be looking at working with West Sussex Highways in respect of improvements to road safety within the village. Councillor Knott has agreed. Thank you. So that's Councillor Knott and Councillor Brown as the Road Safety Partnership. Southwater Schools Meeting Group, which is 2 members and 1 officer, Councillor Nicola Brown, and there's a vacancy for that. Councillor Stannard said he looks as though he's willing to fulfil that. Are there any other people interested? No? In which case, I think Councillor Stannard will now form part of that schools meeting group. The next is the Country Park, Southwater Country Park Forum, 2 members and 1 officer. At the moment, that's Councillor Haddon and Councillor Watkins and the executive officer. Are you both willing to continue on that? Thank you. Let me find my last page. The next is Council District Older Persons Forum. 1 member. At the moment, I'm on that, and I'll continue on that until I get old. Thank you. And lastly, the Welcome Club. There's no appointment required, but at the moment, Councillor Lewis is our community engagement officer. Are you willing to continue on that role? Thank you. Right. We've now reached item 52, Chairman's report. I've nothing to report to this meeting at this stage, so we'll move on to item 53, which is.
Could I just, Mr. Chairman, could I just note that the annual report, the Chairman's annual report, is posted on the Parish Council website in full, as reported at the annual parish meeting.
That's at the annual parish meeting report. Yes. Have you all seen that link to the final report on that? You have. I'd just add that it was good to see so many of our community groups at that meeting. It's a pity we couldn't get more residents there, because those groups serve the residents, and it's trying to get that message out to the rest of the residents that those groups really add benefit to the community, and they're it's what glues Southwater together. It really worked well. So yes, I would encourage you to and share that report as well with neighbours and friends, so that they can see the benefit of those groups. We'll now move on to item 53, which is the Executive Officer's report.
So just to a reminder of councillor training, all councillors are encouraged to do as much training as possible as per the training policy we have in place for both staff and councillors, and continued personal development. I will be circulating an email not today, tomorrow or Friday, with just a few upcoming training dates being provided by West Sussex Association of Local Councils, which is on planning training, new councillor chair training, a neurodiversity briefing session, and then introduction to planning training. And I'll send out some other options as well through for all councillors. Next update, I have had some correspondence in relation to the application process for village greens and what the process is for council providing support. So this was briefly discussed, and it was raised at a planning committee meeting. But I would suggest the next step for the council would be to consider implementing a policy, because currently the council doesn't have a formal policy regarding support for village green applications. And given that there are a number of open spaces in Southwater already protected under SMP 5 and SMP 6 of the neighbourhood plan, the development of such a policy may be a worthwhile exercise. So this would allow the council to approach such requests consistently and transparently. So I would suggest the next planning committee meeting to start discussing and considering what could go in such a policy like that. So that will go to the next planning committee meeting. And then finally, just an update on the local council award scheme. So the gold application has been submitted. Initial feedback will be received this Friday, 23rd of May, with a response deadline for me for the council to submit additional information where required by the 6th of June, 2025, with results and panel feedback to be given by Friday, 8th of August. So that's the day we would find out whether we've got gold or not. We still have 2 councillors that don't have their photos on the website, which could potentially cause an issue based on the NAUC guidelines and what's the criteria. Just wanted to remind those councillors that I do hope that perhaps you reconsider. That is all for my update.
Mr. Chairman, the neurodiversity training, it's hugely essential that councillors, if they get the chance to go along to that, go along to it. I've done one of those previously in the last 4 weeks, and considering the importance of neurodiversity, I think it's probably, if people can go along to it and book in for that, it'd be advantageous to South Water Parish Council and to our Gold Award scheme as well in the future.
Yes, I'm sure the executive officer will encourage us all to undertake that training. We'll now move on to item 55. We need to receive and approve the minutes of the full council meeting of the 19th of February, which were in your pack. Can I have a proposer and a seconder for accepting those minutes? We have Councillor Stannard proposed, Councillor Pearce second. All those in favour that were at that meeting? Right, one.
Councillor Stannard wasn't at that meeting.
Oh, no, I beg your pardon. I wasn't. That's the extraordinary meeting, so I was correct.
Yes.
Ignore that.
Thank you for noting that. So can we recount those hands? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Any abstentions? Any against? Thank you for that. We move on to matters arising. Were there any matters arising from those minutes? Right, no, there weren't. We now move on to full council meeting of the 19th of March. And you've had...
So if I may, Mr. Chairman, had just an amendment request from Councillor Knott in relation to item 38 of the meeting minutes, paragraph 6, to add at the end of the paragraph, just to add, Councillor Knott followed this up by saying that she felt the council should see the value of the additional youth worker, as the council had no guarantees that it would see a benefit until this was implemented. And then a change to the resolution. So the current wording is Councillor Knott proposed delegating authority to the executive officer RFO to implement the grant agreement to commence from 1st of April 2025 and finalise the terms and conditions accordingly, seconded by Councillor Vickers and agreed by all. And the proposed change is Councillor Knott proposed delegating authority to the executive officer RFO to finalise the grant agreement to commence from 1st of April 2025 and finalise the terms and conditions accordingly, seconded by Councillor Vickers and agreed by all. I don't have any objections to that. So
No, that's the to implement and then to
so implement, change to finalise, and then just to add, I will add those into the meeting minutes. If there's,
have you all heard of what is those amendments proposed by council or not? Has anybody any question about it, or are they accepted? Right, we don't need to. We just need to note those changes. Or should we?
The meeting minutes need voting on as you would. So the proposal would be approving the full council meeting minutes,
Right,
as circulated, subject to those amendments.
Subject to those amendments. So can I have a proposer and a seconder for those? So proposed by Councillor Pearce, seconded by Councillor Watkins. All those in favour? Any abstentions? Any against? No. And that's subject to those amendments proposed by Councillor Knott. And I take it that will cover the matters arising.
Matters arising as a separate item.
And are there any matters arising apart from that, from those minutes? No? In which case we'll now move on to item 56, County Council reports and communications. Councillor Jupp, you're on.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Chairman. Good evening.
Good evening.
Since we last met on the 19th of March, a number of things have been going on, some which relate to the whole of the county in general, but also impacting on Southwater Parish and other matters that are just for your parish. You've had quite a dry evening so far. I'm afraid I've got some more dry information for you. And it doesn't get any better later on. But anyway, give me something. And this is the question of devolution, which is in two parts. One is the question of devolution and the creation of a mayoral authority, and which should be separated from the reorganisation of local government. And I know that councillors have commented upon this earlier this evening. As I spoke about last time, and Martin Boffey did as well when he came to see you on the 19th of March on behalf of HDC, the mayoral elections are due to take place in May 2026, and it is anticipated that information about candidates, etc., will be made available early in the new year. And the mayor will have all sorts of strategic responsibilities, including housing and planning issues, which is important for everybody. If I could just take you then onto the question of local government reorganisation. This is the proposal by the current government that there be setting up of unitary authorities, and you've already heard from me and from also HDC councillors. This means the ending of the two-tier system where we have the county council and district and borough councils. And that is still moving on. The timetable, again, if I may just remind you, is for there to be elections to unitary authorities in May 2027, nearly 2 years away, with a unitary council being elected and running as a shadow council to the districts and county council until May 2028, when the county and districts and boroughs will cease to operate. Preliminary or interim plan submissions was made on the 21st of March to the government, to the minister, and that was on behalf of all the 8 councils in West Sussex. That is the 7 district and borough councils and also the county council. And a lot of work since that time has gone on to looking at the possible options for unitary local government in what we know as West Sussex, and also Brighton and Hove, which at the moment is a standalone unitary. It does both the functions of a district or borough council and the county council. When they started that process, and all these councils, those 8 councils, have been working collaboratively, if you'll pardon my pronunciation, they've been working to find possible options. And I believe that when they first met, anything up to 14 different options were aired. But anyway, they have, I believe, boiled down to 4 major areas of research in order to provide a business plan and sustainability when the proposals are submitted in detail in September of this year. Now, there may be one proposal, or there may be a number of proposals. That needs to be worked out over the next 3 to 4 months. But the 4 primary options which have been identified are as follows. One is for a single county unitary as representing West Sussex as we know it at the moment. That, of course, is quite the easiest one to do in the sense of aggregation of services, disaggregation of services. Anyway, the second one will be 2 unitaries based on a east-west split. And the east split would be of more interest to yourselves, and that would propose to include Horsham, Mid-Sussex, Crawley, and Ada. That was one option. The other one was an east-west split. Sorry, I just did the east. Sorry, the north-south split, which was Horsham, Crawley, Mid-Sussex, and half, the northern half of Chichester District Council. And finally, there is the possibility of a unitary or two unitaries in the county with an expanded footprint to include Brighton and Hove. And the reason for that is that Brighton and Hove has a population of around about 280,000 at the moment, and the government gave a guideline when it first started this exercise of unitaries having ideally a population of 500,000. The government, however, came back a fortnight ago and slightly amended their guidance to us, and they're now saying that actually the 500,000 may not be absolutely firm. Anyway, so we may know a little bit more about that. There has been another complication in that Crawley Borough Council have made a submission or come to a conclusion that they would like to join with Reigate and Banstead, that's a Surrey district council, to form their own separate unitary. And there was talk that it might include Tanbridge as well. But Tanbridge voted, I think, last week to say no, they didn't want to be part of it. So there are a number of things up in the air at the moment, but the 8 councils, through their chief executives, their political leaderships, and also their support teams, are all looking at the various options that are before them. I mean, one of the questions is the financial viability of any new unitary authority. And there are concerns in some areas that if you have too many unitaries, you'll have what's known as the cost of de-aggregation. Well, this is principally all those large services which the county council provide in terms of adult and children's services. These are services which are the dominant work of the county council. If you just look at it very simply, the county council has a gross budget of just over £2 billion a year. And if you take out the education element, you'll find that those social services, adult and children's, take up around about 60% of the budget. They're huge figures. Now, if you start splitting those up, if you start splitting up into unitaries, then you run the risk of a lot of double counting of costs to run individual ones. So there's a lot to be thought about there. However, the various councils, West Sussex and the districts, are sort of knocking this into shape. And of course, there will be different views as to what makes the best shape of a unitary. Those discussions will have to come to a head in September of this year, and it may be that there will be a number of proposals that have been put forward. Individual councils may put their own proposals forward. Anyway, we expect that there will be a decision in the new year about what the shape and size of those unitary authorities will be. One point I did stress to you about strategic planning is that we know from the latest advice from the Minister is that the government is committed, if I may just quote here, the government is committed to ensuring universal coverage of up-to-date local plans as quickly as possible, so strategic planning reform proposals should not be used as a reason to delay the preparation of local plans. And the legal status of current local plans is not impacted by this government reorganisation, and where reorganisation occurs, new unitary authorities are expected to promptly prepare a local plan covering the whole of their area. So I know that you spoke earlier about the neighbourhood plan, which you spent a great deal of time and effort and produced admirably, but obviously that will be affecting you as you go forward. So I suspect that we may hear more about devolution from Horsham District Council's viewpoint at the moment, but that is how it's looking at the moment from county. If I then could take you on to a couple of matters with regard to highways and with Southwater. Since talking to you, Chairman, and also to the Clerk, I have been starting the conversation with West Sussex Highways with regard to finding whether or not we can get an extension of the 30-mile-an-hour restrictions along those parts of Worthing Road that are currently at 40 miles per hour. They're at the southern and northern end of the Worthing Road. There's also, I've started a discussion with highways with regard to parking restrictions in what's known as Bluecoat Pond Road in Christ Hospital, because that road seems to be blighted with commuters parking their cars there on the public highway that go using Christ Hospital Station. Also, a number of people have been known to park on that road while they've gone on holiday, probably catching the train to Gatwick. So that has produced some problems on that road there. Finally, if I may just talk to you, the highway steward or highways officer for this area would be happy to come to meet the council at a parish meeting if you think it would be worthwhile sometime in the future. I know that you only have them by monthly, but I don't know what their holiday arrangements are, but perhaps that might be something that could be arranged in late July. I think that's when you next meet. Time's running on.
Yes. Well, our planning meetings are every month. So that's something for the planning committee to consider in whether or not that would be of a benefit, or whether or not it's necessary for a full council meeting, which, as you say, are bi-monthly. So it's something that we can consider. Thank you for that. Just on timeframes on the safety review of the speed limits, when will we next hear from the highways as to what they plan to do next?
I was speaking to them only yesterday about this. Forgive me, I think it will probably be next week. I was expecting an email this afternoon, actually, but it didn't come in. I've just checked. That's why I was trying to get on the phone there.
Okay, thank you.
Could I just mention one other thing? Since we met, or last met, of course, the County Council has announced the decision to make Millay a co-educational school as from September 2026. This decision, I think, was expected. I don't think it was entirely welcomed by the leadership team at Millay, but nevertheless, that is the decision that will happen. This, I hope, will resolve all the problems we've had about finding secondary school places in Horsham for our boys in Southwater. As you know, there are 1,068 secondary school places in Horsham at the 4 schools, and for this September, I think we're only having around about 960 new pupils, or new starting in there. So there is quite a lot of headroom of now about 10%. And the Department of Education advice is to have a headroom of 5%, in other words, to work on 95% capacity.
Okay.
So we should be all right. And if I may just finally say, on the question of schooling numbers, the primary school allocations, children going into reception for Castlewood and the Junior Academy, were announced last month as well. And I believe that the figures for admissions to the Junior Academy are around about 80 youngsters, which is an interesting figure because it was only 6 or 7 years ago they were at 120. And they were pressing at that time for additional classrooms because they anticipated that the growth in numbers going there would continue. That hasn't been the case, and I think we've seen it countrywide. I'm afraid for one reason or another the birth rate has declined, and even in Southwater, with all your new houses, those numbers of children going or starting primary school in Southwater have not increased.
Decline, yeah. Could you, I don't know, are there any updates on any of the appeals that were made from the children that weren't successful in getting a place in Horsham? Has there any news or announcements been made on that, or is it, are they still being considered?
I don't believe the appeals have been heard yet.
Right, okay, thank you. Would anybody else like to question Councillor Jupp?
Councillor Jupp, I had a meeting last week with West Salk, and the chairman of East Salk was there. He was also the chairman of NALC, who had a meeting with the government minister dealing with devolution. And apparently we're expecting a white paper out on devolution in the next 2 months, which should highlight a lot of facts that, or a lot of measures that can be taken and would be taken over the next 18 months. Also, it was raised on that Crawley, Reigate and Banstead is actually, Crawley are actually working very hard to make that a unitary authority, and it is a valid option at this current time. So that in itself could mean quite a difference in figures regarding sort of Sussex in general. And I think that obviously between now and the end of the autumn, I think quite a lot of information is going to come out that will probably highlight the facts that you're saying about what West Sussex and the 3 unitaries are going to do. But the 4th unitary of Crawley, Reigate and Banstead, I think, is live, and they're working very hard for that fact as well. And also the fact that a lot of the neighbourhood forums and other councils are actually working very hard to turn themselves into town councils before we get much farther down the line. And I know Horsham is supporting that. But that was just an update that I had last week. The other thing is on Saturday we had the councillor surgery, we had a gentleman called Tony Ryder who's been trying to get hold of you for a few months regarding pinch points in Worthing Road. He says he's emailed you. I just don't know whether you could check your emails and take a look at it.
I will, yes, I will do. Tony Ryder?
Tony Ryder, yeah.
Forgive me, does he want them taken away?
He doesn't want them kept there, but whether he wants them taken away is another option.
I think we've explored that one many times before, haven't we?
Well, yeah, he's just been trying to get hold of you to talk about it. That's also, if you could have a check on that.
I will check my email, sorry.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Could I just come back on the question of Reigate and Banstead and Crawley? I think opinions do vary as to whether or not that will be successful or not. I know they're working hard on it, and they've got ambitions
I think opinions always vary, don't they?
Yeah.
Well, look, thank you very much, Councillor Jupp. Unless anybody else has any questions for Councillor Jupp, I think we can let you sit down. Thank you for those updates. We'll now move on to item 57, which is District Councillor reports, and we've got Councillor Jeffries.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everybody. So if I just start, there's been a few things that have gone on in the last few months, so if I just start with an update on one of the more pressing issues for Southwater, which is the status of the local plan. So, as many have probably heard by now, last month the inspector finally came back to the District Council after 5 months of chasing, after the inspector prematurely ended the examination hearings back in December, citing that he had significant concerns regarding the plan. After 5 months of radio silence, despite repeated requests, the inspector finally came back with a recommendation to withdraw the plan on the basis that he believes it to fail the housing delivery target, i.e. not building enough houses within the plan period. I have my own views on how the inspectors come to that agreement. I think it is rather telling that our examination, generally speaking, you have 2 inspectors for a local plan examination. We had 1. And in terms of the significant concerns the inspector highlighted, he didn't come back with anything else that he could highlight, which I thought was quite telling. So at the moment, that is the status that that's what the inspector has recommended. The council have been shocked at that recommendation, considering the plan also underwent a health check, which is optional, prior to formal submission. And that means that the plan is examined by the planning inspectorate prior to submission to do a health check to ensure there aren't any main concerns or policy vacuum prior to examination. That health check was undertaken and no significant concerns were found by the planning inspectorate that undertook that check, which is why we were quite shocked that he came back with this. So the council is currently considering its position on how to respond to the planning inspector. The leadership have had advice late last week from our planning barristers who have been a part of that examination, and the council are going to be considering our options moving forward on how to respond. There are various options on the table. It also includes judicial review of the inspector's process and how he's come to that decision and how he's handled the examination. There's been no decision yet on how to proceed. But the council are going to have to make a decision within the next few weeks on how to proceed and approach this. When I do have more information on that, once we've had those discussions, I will update the council accordingly. If there's any pressing updates before the next meeting, I'll make sure I inform the council of those to keep all councillors informed on that process. Obviously, at the end, I'm happy to take any questions that councillors may have on that. If I just move on briefly to issues surrounding the Southwater Country Park, I think, as many councillors may know, there's been a bane of the life of many residents since the pandemic years in 2020, when the fencing went up around the paddling beach. You'll be surprised the amount of times it comes up on the door, even unannounced. Just on the Saturday, I was delivering some letters, and without even prompting it, on about 19 of those doors, I think, the paddling beach, someone had a moan about the fencing around it. So it clearly drives people the wrong way. It rubs people the wrong way. So on Monday, I had a meeting with officers and the head of service for our parks and countryside. As in February, I also did a stat poll of residents in Southwall. So I had 398 responses, with 94% requesting its removal to 7% against, with various comments via email that I'd requested for further information. I've also consulted various other groups, not including the Swan Society and the cafe as well, and other users of the park. So I've had the meeting on Monday with officers. They've put forward their reasons for keeping it. I have taken some of the concerns they've raised on board. However, I am still of the view, especially if it's the wish of the public as well, to use the park in their village more freely, to look at its removal. So what I've done is I'm allowing officers, I'm going to be working with them on this, to look at other temporary measures they may be able to use in place of a permanent fence if they do need any crowd control measures in the future, for example, which aren't a permanent fixture like the current fence. So I'm going to be working with officers on that over the coming weeks to ensure that they're satisfied, from which then we'll move forward with what I'm hoping will be the removal of the fence over the coming months. I can't guarantee it's going to be done before the summer, which I'm a bit disappointed about, but progress is progress, I suppose. If I just move on briefly to the development on the former Sony site at Southwater Business Park, obviously that's caused a lot of contention with residents with the size and the sheer size of that construction. And I think it shocked a lot of people when you look back at the original planning consent. Obviously, I was not elected at the time that it was given consent. It was about a month before the election. So on the 25th of April, all Southwater councils had a meeting with planning officers on that, to which we discussed the concerns raised by residents. The outcome of the meeting was that, despite the concerns, officers are satisfied that the applicant has constructed the development in accordance with agreed planning permission, and I'll get on to why they've come to that judgment. In the meeting, concerns were raised regarding the scale of the development, as I've just highlighted, in comparison to the design submitted. I pointed out on the original designs that the tree line was above that of the highest point on the elevation on the plans, and asked for clarification on how that was in conforming with that plan. Officers clarified that in planning law, the development itself is required to be scaled, however the scenery is not. Which is why I know Councillor Vickers isn't here, but I don't think she'll mind me saying that she says she felt she was misled in that planning meeting as a result, as she wasn't aware of that either, neither was I at the time. Other questions were brought up. I brought up the description of the development as a single-storey development. Clearly, it's quite not to the naked eye. And officers further clarified, which was quite shocking to me actually, that under UK planning law, it's the responsibility of the applicant to have an honest description of their application, and even if the local planning authority deem it to be misleading, cannot alter it unless the applicant gives its permission to do so, which I find quite shocking, but that is a planning law, and I have seen the evidence to back it up. So, unfortunately, that is another area in which I don't think councillors at the time were aware. So, in terms of the actual development, there's not much we can do to prevent it. However, there are actions we can take, including additional screening. I'm aware that along the Downs link, there's been a lot of a lot of the foliage and undergrowth has been cut back. I think there was some ash dieback works along the Downslink path there as well. So I believe, I'm not sure if she's done it yet, but I believe Councillor Vickers agreed she was going to be working with Councillor Jupp and contact Councillor Jupp to look at the additional screening on the land owned by West Sussex County Council on the Downslink. And separately, what I've done is I've contacted the developer directly to assess what mitigation can be implemented from their side to limit the visual harm on neighbouring properties. And I wrote this weekend to all those properties along there to inform them of this. Just moving on briefly to on Thursday, the 8th of May, we had the VE Day commemorations to mark 80 years since the end of the war in Europe. So you may be aware that there was celebrations across the district, including in Southwater and in Horsham Town as well. So in Horsham Town, for example, they had a procession above at the Carfax and St Mary's Church, followed by the beacon lighting. So it was fantastic that so many areas of the district came out to mark that occasion. I won't dwell on that, as we know we know on that one, Chairman. If I just move on very briefly as well to the Horsham Town Regeneration Project. So many may know it's been in the County Times, it's been all over the old social media sites as well, as we all know and love, that there's a proposal currently to regenerate the Horsham Town Centre. The consultation to that has closed, having ran from the 9th to the 30th of April. The council hosted drop-in sessions at Swanwalk Shopping Centre, as well as online consultations, and ran adverts in the local press and on social media. The council are currently compiling those results. We've received over 850 contributions from across. So once those have been compiled and assessed, then we'll release further details of what that feedback says and whether or not it's popular, how popular it is or not, and whether or not that will go ahead. And finally, because I realised I'm conscious of time, there's a litter crackdown at the moment. So Horsham District Council are asking local motorists and residents to help reduce levels of littering on the district's roadsides, particularly in key problem areas. I don't have to tell you as a parish council that one of the main problems, one of the big problems in the district, or one of the main areas, is the 8264 between Southwater and Horsham. Obviously with the McDonald's being in quite close proximity, that has been an issue for a very long time. The council is asking that if road users or members of the public spot offenders dropping litter to report incidents online. I've included a link in the electronic copy of my report that I've sent to the chairman and the executive officer. And also, if they're able to supply the council with dash cam footage, they are currently working with the local policing force, who will issue them with fixed penalty notices for doing so, to crack down on it. Additionally, there is currently a scheme for Adopt a Street, where residents can adopt a local street or a green space to essentially look after and tender it. The council will provide equipment and litter picking equipment if that's something people would like to do. Again, I've left a link to that in my electronic report, which I'm sure if anyone's interested, the executive officer will be able to circulate. And then just to end very briefly, upcoming surgery. So I as well as the monthly Southwater Parish Council surgery, I host my own surgeries in different parts of the ward. So my next surgery, if you know any residents that need to speak to me about anything and can't make the council surgery on the weekend, or first Saturday of the month, my next one is actually in Coolham on the Saturday the 14th of June. As I've just had one last week at the Tipsy Fox, so that's just for noting, really, just in case anyone needs to contact me or meet me about anything to discuss any matters. I think that's all I've got for you at the moment.
Okay.
I'm happy to take any questions on any of that.
I'm mindful that we're 8:30 and we plan to finish at 9. So, but if there is anybody with a burning question for Councillor Jeffrey.
Yes, Councillor Jeffries, you mentioned the Sony site. Obviously, the size and the position of the site in reference to the to where it was put on the drawings. I mean, it does comply with the drawings. I think this is a sort of a disaster waiting to happen. As soon as that site becomes operational, the management transport plan will need to be looked at again, because this is the cumulative effect of that site within Southwater, with all the housing that we have taken, are going to be taken in the future, is going to have a really detrimental effect on the Worthing Road. And it was, I know it's been approved that the Highways did look at it, but taking a look at the size of the site and the amount of storage there could be within there and the hours of use, this could have a really detrimental effect on Southwater residents with the amount of traffic that's going to be generated. The last part as well, since you've been talking about planning, Southwater planning committee are finding problems at the moment that Horsham District Council are ignoring our neighbourhood plan and approving applications which are directly contradict certain sections of the neighbourhood plan. Perhaps our executive officer could drop you a note on that with some of the applications at the moment, especially on-site parking for buildings that are having garage conversions and things like this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll take those away. If I can just come back briefly, very briefly, on the first point Councillor Watkins made regarding the transport management plan. I know I'm speaking to Councillor Vickers, who was one of the only councillors currently on the committee who's still serving. I know that from the meeting originally in April 23, councillors did scrutinise the management plan and the traffic. That was the main aspect they were looking at, which I think is why they oversaw the actual size of the units. That wasn't scrutinised as closely, I think. But I'm happy to work with Councillor Vickers, who was at that committee, to look at that management plan again, because I think it's important to just double check that.
Yes, I think Councillor.
Yeah, just very, very quickly. Thank you, Chairman. Alex, just for your information, really, and a bit of support. At a Warden's steering group meeting earlier today, I became aware that there's a sunset event. Are you aware, on the 29th in the country park, which I believe involves alcohol and something to do with the sunset, organised by HDC. They made a direct approach to the wardens to ask if they could drop in, and I politely told the wardens coordinator, we did not know about it, to be fair, that if they want to use the wardens, they must come through the executive officer and Southwater Parish Council. There are wardens, not Horsham wardens. You may hear about that. That's what the situation is. It'll be dealt with by Carol. And also I want to see the risk assessment as well, because our wardens are not police officers and they've got no power to, alcohol, pond, lake. Really? I'd like to see the risk assessment. But just so you're aware.
I understand one's been done. I was under the impression that wardens had been informed, so I'm surprised that they haven't. So I'm happy to follow that up internally.
They've been asked to attend, but nobody's told us until today. And they must come through the Parish Council.
I do agree, and I was under the impression they had done that, so I didn't know about that. I'll follow that up.
I've not had any correspondence.
It was one of the real concerns we had initially, that what was happening was Horsham were controlling the wardens that were for Southwater without Southwater knowing about it, and there was an agreement that would not happen again. So by the sound of it, it has. Right.
It's not a big issue, just so you're aware.
I'll investigate and update the council accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, well, thank you very much for that, Councillor Jeffries. We'll now move back to the agenda, and we're on item 58, and that is under the F&GP committee. We've got minutes of the 9th of April 2025. We need to approve those minutes. Those present at the meeting were Pearce, Brown, Cole, Moore, Turnbull, Knott and Lewis. So can I have a proposer for the acceptance of those minutes? Councillor Lewis, is there a seconder? Councillor Pearce. All those in favour of acceptance of those minutes who were there at the meeting? That was 4. Any abstentions? Any objections? None. Thank you. We'll now move on to item number B, which is recommendation from the F&GP committee to council tenders for stage 2 of tree works, and to consider and receive the report and approve the contractor. Now, you've all had that as part of the... Now, an important part here is that we have to refer to contractors by A, B, C and D. The recommendation from the F&GP committee there was some, I think that we were going to try and
If I may-
understand the difference, the wide difference between the tenders. Can you?
Yeah, if I may, Mr. Chairman. So, following on from the F&GP committee, the F&GP committee approved delegating further evaluation to myself, Senior Operations Officer, Councillors Knott and Councillors Brown. The Senior Operations Officer has led on this with both councillors. So we're here at this meeting to now approve one of the contractors. You'll see from the report there are 2 preferred contractors where further evaluation was carried out after various discussions at the F&GP meeting. So as I understand it from the report that's in the pack, councillors will be looking at either contractor C or contractor D to move forward with.
Now you've all seen those.
Sorry, could you say that again? I don't quite understand.
So the contractors have already been discussed in detail by the F&GP committee, and there were 2 contractors that had tendered amounts below the mean average, which required further evaluation. The Senior Operations Officer, Councillor Brown and Councillor Knott, have all met to further evaluate the tenders and in particular meet with the contractors contractors C and D to understand if they've fully understood the specification, to understand the basis of the price of the tenders submitted. So as I understand it, the sort of the recommendations being put forward are to consider either contractor C or contractor D.
Really? On the figures stated on their schedules? Unless I'm reading this wrong, C is very low, followed by D, which is very low, when you consider the other contractors in place. So perhaps Councillor Knott and Councillor Brown can explain their decision on this.
Can I say something? So we met with both, well, we met virtually with one and face-to-face with the other, and we asked them, or they were asked by Louisa straight out about whether or not they were, the values that they were quoting were ones that they felt were achievable. Had they properly understood the spec? Had they walked around the areas? And both said they did, and both stood by the prices that were quoted. So I don't know, is there anything you want to add?
Not only that, we, as in the report, it said that one at the last minute said they couldn't come in due to an emergency. I can't get the paper up. Can I just borrow your? Sorry. And contractor D came in. They really did seem to know the area. We approached both of them and said that we would like references. That contractor D came back to us very quickly with. I'm not sure. Did contractor C come back with their references on time, or did they miss the deadline?
Contractor C have provided references, but they weren't provided in a timely manner as per the deadline Louise had set.
And the references for contractor D, I thought were very high spec. So, I mean, I think our real concerns were obviously how were the reason why they were so much lower than the other 3 sort of average prices. And they've answered all our questions, they've answered all our queries, and there's no reason why what they're saying is they won't meet the contract.
Well,
and as we say, but the lowest one were late on us receiving our references, and they couldn't come to a face-to-face meeting as they had an emergency. So, you know, a decision on that. I mean, yeah.
So you've narrowed it down to contractors C and D.
Absolutely, because for the value for money, they can do everything that we've requested them to do. So I cannot see a reason for going for something so much substantially higher, the other four in question, when these are substantially lower, either of them, and that we have taken up references and we've met the companies.
Can I just add in? I think the concern at the meeting, finance meeting, was that that there was a reason why they were so considerably lower. That maybe it was because they hadn't understood the spec of the quote, or because they were substandard, or their work was, or lots of other reasons. Because it was quite different. But that's why we did the meetings to ask the questions, and you know, we all came away feeling that actually either one of them would be more than adequate, and they had a lot of systems in place, and certainly contractor D, as it said in the report, one of the representatives lives local, and he, you know, he'd made a sort of special trip to come. Prior to everything, he'd actually gone round and walked the whole plan. He talked, you know, very passionately. They were all very passionate about what they did. But yeah, I think our concerns, I don't think have been are warranted. Now we've actually met them and done all the research. That's my view.
Right, Councillor Everard, yes.
My question would only be, having gone through lots of these myself with the stuff that I do at work, there is a big disparity, and all I would say is that there isn't anything hidden within their quotations with caveats are sitting there that caveat them out of certain things or allow them to charge more if we don't do X, Y and Z in a certain time, that allows them the exercise of being able to increase their costs. And that was duly checked and sorted out.
I think we had, we robustly went through it. Louisa had gone through the contract line by line, the spec of what the quotes were, line by line, and there were some things that she really pushed them on, that she wanted answers, and they answered everything, and I really cannot see how...
Okay, I was just asking the question.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And actually, the references that came in were from, I would say, much bigger organisations than us. So, yeah. And definitely, I would say contractor D would, I would say, be closer to the teams that came in, that would know exactly what teams were in and where. More so than maybe C.
Right. Well, we've relied on two councillors and the officer to investigate and make sure that there weren't any glaring holes in the quotes that were submitted. It's up to councillors to decide whether or not they feel that the lower of the quotations is so wide of the mark, but we're here to make sure that we get value for money, and it's a tough one because we're going to have to rely on the work that was done to justify that they're able to do this work.
Can I ask you, did you speak to contractor A that we use quite often, who is the third lowest contractor, to see whether their price was, whether they had a problem with their price? Because it's
Sorry, which contractor?
Sorry?
Which on the list?
Contractor A.
We've not actually used contractor A before.
None of them are our normal contractor.
Did our current contractor not quote?
They didn't. They didn't submit a tender in time.
It's in time or not at all?
Not at all.
Was there a reason behind that?
No reason provided.
Okay.
Well, yes,
Having listened to all the views, obviously, wrong terminology, but the safer bet, but I would like to propose candidate D as the chosen provider.
right. We've had a nomination for candidate D from Councillor Pearce, and that's been seconded by Councillor Lewis. All those in favour of accepting Councillor D on this contract? Any abstentions? Any against? Councillor Watkins voted against. Right, in which case the contractor D will be appointed for.
So just to confirm for the meeting minutes, contractor D is Oxleas Tree Care Limited for a tender amount of £22,696, excluding VAT.
Right, thank you. Now, we now move on to the,
There's no updates on the next three items.
so under Planning Committee, Health and Safety Committee and HR Committee, there are no updates. We now move on to 59, to receive and note the contents of the Internal Auditor's Report.
So if I may, Mr. Chairman, the internal audit reports, interim and year-end, were circulated on the 9th of October 2024 and 12th May 2025 to councillors via email, also being noted at full council meetings. As per the report circulated and published on our website, there are no issues or recommendations raised within either of the internal audits, hence no action plan required to implement said recommendations or revise procedures during the period of 1st of April 2024 to 31st of March 2025. If there are no questions, this just needs a vote approval.
Before we approve it, again, this is another good report from our internal auditors that confirm that the executive officer and the team, and also with the help of the F&GP team too, we're doing what we should be, and we're there. So yes, please convey our thanks to you and the team for getting us another good report. So we need to approve this. So can I have an approval? Councillor Pearce and Councillor Lewis, all those in favour of accepting the report? We're now. Any abstentions? Any against? Right. We now move on to the annual governance and accountability return to receive, approve and sign.
Mr. Chairman, you've missed item 60.
Sorry, annual accounts for year ending 31st, item 60. I've turned over too many.
So all documents are circulated in advance of the meeting and confirmed as received. So unless there are any questions, is there
The only thing where I went in and saw Justin about the accounts and everything was absolutely fine. It was just I found very interesting that number 9, the total assets that are held off balance sheet, and I was going to be given a list of it. I just didn't know if anyone else was interested, because I found that the conversation we had about the off balance sheet and what items we held that weren't actually in our accounts to be quite an interesting subject. So I don't know if anyone else would be interested.
So as part of the training, I'm quite happy to do some internal training with any councillors interested in having finance training specific to this council, as opposed to generalised training for councillors provided by SALC or NALC.
So this is to consider and approve the annual accounts ending in the year ended 31st of March 2025. And that is the balance sheet, or is it the whole set of
everything
accounts?
in the pack.
It's all those accounts that are in that pack.
So the council is required to approve the annual accounts year ended 31st of March 2025 before it can go onto the AGAR.
And this has to be signed by both the chairman and the RFO. Or not? That's done to the AGAR, right. Okay, can I have a proposer and a seconder for the Councillor Pearce and Councillor Knott has seconded. All those in favour? That's unanimous. We now move on to the annual governance accountability return.
So section 1 of the annual governance statement, we've all received a copy of this within the pack, and it's been prior filled in. So here we require, on reading all the statements, someone to propose it, someone to second it, and then on to a vote. And then the document then has to be signed at this meeting with the minute reference.
Right. So can I have a proposer for the annual governance and accountability return, please? Councillor Brown and Councillor, seconded by Councillor Lewis. All in those in favour? And that's unanimous. You need that to be signed now.
That now needs to be signed. So, if you can sign, if you sign here. Okay, and then I'll sign here. And it's dated today's date.
21st. Right, thank you for that. We now go on to the annual governance statement.
So I can confirm that I certify as RFO for the year ended 31st of March 2025, the accounting statements in this AGAR have been prepared on either on an income and expenditure basis following the guidance in the governance and accountability for small authorities, a practitioner's guide to proper practices, and present fairly the financial position of this authority. And I've wet signed the official copy.
Right. You need me to sign that, or you?
Not
is it
yet,
just
so
you?
council need to approve the accounting statements first.
So the accounting statements of 24 and 25, which you've had in the pack as well, they need to be approved. So can I have an approval and a seconder, please? Proposer and a seconder. Councillor Pearce proposed. Councillor Watkins seconded. All those in favour? Thank you. That's unanimous.
Okay, so if you can sign here. It's dated with the minute reference. Thank you.
Thank you. And we go into number 3 of that, item 61, which is notice of public's right of ways to receive notification of dates.
So the notice of public rights is in the pack. Just to confirm that the period will commence from the 3rd of June to the 14th of July. The official date of the announcement, as per what's on the notice, is 2nd of June. However, this notice will go up on a notice board and on the website prior to this date, just for noting.
Thank you. We'll now move on to item 62, which is standing orders, to approve the amendments to the adopted standing orders as per the now model standing orders. You'll see those with the track changes in red. This is to fall in line with the NAUC model standing orders. Can I have a proposer?
Mr Chairman, presumably everybody's read these standing orders. Could I refer you to clause 14, please?
In the standing orders?
Yeah.
The Code of Conduct complaints.
Yeah. Well, it's quite a drastic change to the previous standing orders, and I didn't know whether although this is following NAUC's recommendations, it is only a recommendation, and this isn't one that has to stay changed, but it's previously any notification any complaint against the councillor had to be notified to the council. This one seems to be abbreviating it. Upon notification by a principal council of the councillor or non-councillor with voting rights that breach the code of conduct, the council shall consider what, if any, action to be taken against them. Such action excludes disqualification and suspension from office. The parts it overrides seems to be that nobody's going to know about any complaint.
Notification.
I just didn't know whether you wanted to consider this in a bit more detail rather than go to an acceptance of something which drastically waters down the code of conduct. And obviously we have a council code of conduct which relates to the standing orders, and on that basis I think this is a retrograde step.
Mr. Chairman, may I suggest that the council consider adopting the amendments as per NAUC's updated standing orders, but with the caveat that we actually direct the reader of the standing orders to the council's complaints procedure policy.
But the wording of it says that the council shall consider what, if any, actions necessary. How does the council consider it? I just don't understand how the council considers it.
It doesn't.
If it was the executive officer or RFO, I could understand the way this is worded, but it says the council, and therefore it means full council, I presume, which means it would have to come before full council to decide what action's taken, which I think conflicts with our code of conduct. Sorry to bring this up so late, but I've been very busy with other things, and it's
No, I can, in reading it through, it's not clear. But you're saying that we could refer it to our complaints procedure policy.
The standing orders are an important document to the council. Appreciate the time of the meeting, and this isn't something that should be rushed. These are the amendments put forward by NAUC, but I think if, rather than rush the approval of this, I think perhaps this should be deferred to the next full council meeting, so we have time to understand these changes and how this relates back to the complaints procedure policy and the code of conduct. This particular clause within our standing orders does relate to code of conduct complaints. This is complaints about councillors, does not include members of staff. But I think in view of the comments raised, so I mean, it's, if you see our current clause 14D is the same as 14A, or the new 14A, but the if more clarity is provided, then I would suggest we defer this to the next meeting.
Is council happy to defer this until the next meeting?
Well, I certainly am if the executive officer thinks that's the appropriate action, yes.
Right, okay. All right, so we'll defer this until the next meeting with further explanation over the wording of this and how we've got to make sure it links with the complaint procedure policy. Right. So that's deferred. Finance regulations to approve continued use. So you'll see the finance.
So there are no changes. Just the finance regulations were reviewed and approved at a relatively recent meeting. I think it was the last meeting or the meeting before that. So this is just to approve the continued use. This is in the annual meeting of the council. It states that the council will will look at both its standing orders and its finance regulations.
Right. So we need to approve the continued use of the financial regulations. Can I have a proposer? Councillor Pearce, Councillor Watkins, all those in favour? That's the continued, that's unanimous. We now move on to item 64, risk management schedule policy. And that is to approve amendments to the risk management schedule policy. Again, you'll see those highlighted in red. A lot of these are date changes. So that they refer to the current. Are there any?
I mean, I've read through that document, Mr. Chairman, and I haven't got any points to raise on it.
Right, okay. Does anybody else have any other comment on them? In which case, can I have a proposer and a seconder for them? And this is for the risk management schedule policy. So Councillor Watkins proposed, Lewis seconded. And all those in favour? Yes, all those in favour, it's unanimous. The next is item 65, calendar of meeting. That is just to note the forthcoming calendar of meetings. Moving on to item 66, direct debits, to approve the continued use of direct debits in accordance with the financial regulations. And again, we need to approve those. Can I have a proposer? Proposed by Councillor Pearce and seconded by Councillor Knott. All those in favour? Thank you. We now move on to council subscriptions. You'll see that there's a list of subscriptions and memberships. It is to approve those. Can I have a proposer for those? Councillor Brown proposed, Councillor Knott seconded. All those in favour? Thank you, that's unanimous. Reinstatement works to the Youth Club area of Beeston House to receive a report relating to the refurbishment area of the area and approve a contractor. I realise it's getting late, and if you'll bear with me here that we're very near the end of this agenda, if we can continue, please, because this is something that we need to resolve at this meeting. You'll see that there, again, we've got contractors A, B and C for the quote for the work. This is to reinstate the area back to a lettable condition. Can I have a proposer?
Just one item, kitchen area, item 2, first item, to coordinate with the party responsible for removing the kitchen and the kitchenette. I think that was, these quotes were based when the contractor, who's moving the kitchenette at the moment, because it was going to be moved out of there previously, and now it's still there. So I don't know whether that's included within the quotations.
So you're raising that it was originally scoped without the kitchen being there. It's still there. Who's taking it out? And it's possible that the approved contractor might increase their cost to then remove that. Are we? If we're aware of this at the time, then when we choose the contractor, and we've acknowledged that there could be additional costs for removing the kitchen. Yes. Right. Can I have a proposal, please, for the contractor under A, B and C?
I've really got to declare an interest on this one because I'm using the contractor, one of these contractors elsewhere, who's actually the lowest contractor at the moment. So I'd like to
declare an interest.
Right,
okay. In which case, in which case I think, one, you can't propose, but two, you shouldn't vote on it either. Councillor Lewis?
Looking at the quotes and obviously and looking through the report which I have, I would very happily propose C. For some reasons, I appreciate that it's very close to A, but the quotes remain the same, and so I'm happy to propose a C going forward.
Can I have a seconder, please? So Councillor Lewis has proposed contract to C, and seconded by Councillor Pearce. All those in favour? And that's unanimous with Councillor Watkins.
That's of course subject to availability because it needs to be done fairly quickly.
So you need to announce the contractor on that for the minutes.
Just to confirm, that contract was Delwood, and the quote was £8,595. No VAT included in that. Ex-VAT, sorry.
Right. The last item before the date of the next meeting is for the a working group.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
A working group to be set up. This has been proposed by Councillors Lewis and Pearce to consider the implications, opportunities for the local government reorganisation and devolution. I understand that some terms of reference have been sent out today, but the difficulty is we haven't had those for approval at this meeting, but we can approve the formation of the working group. Yes.
So, just to explain, I'd help produce some terms of reference so that when it comes to discussing the formation of the group, there were terms of reference that could be discussed. There were no terms of reference circulated in the pack, but the outline of this notice of motion is still the same. So if this is something that the council wishes to consider, then we can talk about what those terms of reference would look like.
And who will be on it. Yes. So at this stage, it's the establishment of a working group, but of course there will be no members appointed, no terms of reference set at this stage. Yes.
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the notice of motion is on the agenda as per the request from Councillors Lewis and Pearce. In view of the notice of motion, I have prepared draft terms of reference if this is a way the council wishes to proceed. So if the council is interested in setting up a working group, then I can provide some guidance as to how that might look.
Mr. Chairman, you've mentioned terms of reference which we've not seen. If you were to set this as a notice of motion without even mentioning terms of reference, I don't have a problem with it. But because it's been mentioned that draft terms of reference are already out and circulated, are we not, by approving this, approving the draft rule at the same time? Because
not unless we ask the. It's got to come back to full council then to approve the terms of reference, isn't it? Yes.
So you may as well approve the whole lot at one time.
May I just, as it was a motion by Chris and I, the idea of this was to get the ball rolling, basically, to put the idea into motion. We've had a lot of discussion tonight about reorganisation, devolution, call it what one wishes. I have some concerns personally regarding work that I undertake on behalf of the council, which I'm not going to discuss now. And all I wanted to do was to set the wheels in motion. There's a lot of work that needs to be done in the interim. And if council were minded to set up a group and maybe nominate some people to go on it and start the wheels in motion, we would not do anything until such time as we come back to council, obviously, with proper terms of reference. I'm grateful to the EO for putting these, helping us put these out. It's really just an information document at this stage. It isn't anything we need to discuss. All we're asking is the council consider setting up this working group so that we can kick the ball rolling down the hill and go from there. We've got a lot of time. We're not going to rush anything. There's nothing to be rushed. And we need a lot of advice. We need a lot of help. There are people within this council that have that knowledge that may not have the ability or the time to be on that working group, but we will certainly look at that and just start setting up something. So we're prepared, and we can say that we're prepared to the residents. The important thing is that we actually show the residents that we're doing something. They're aware of what's going on, or some of them are, not all of them. And that's all it was.
Yeah, and there's no doubt we will have to set up a working group to consider this.
Yeah.
It's whether or not we can do it now without having terms of reference and knowing who's going to be on it. Do you understand what I'm saying? Is that
You know,
can we? Is it possible we can form the group without any members and in terms of reference? I don't think we can.
The working group needs to be formed with an understanding from the council as to what the purpose of that working group is, what its terms of reference. Is it there to produce a report? Is it there to look at specific projects? I think maybe this is being overcomplicated. I understand from Councillor Lewis, he just wants to open up the discussion
And make sure we get moving on it. Yeah.
Yes.
and there are, you know, if you look at the notice of motion, it's in there that what we said. I can read it out if you wish. It is in there. It's on the agenda. You know, we're looking at the implications up to his perceived outcomes. It's a talking shop to start with. There's an education need here.
With the greatest respect, it's not actually a notice of motion because you're not actually doing anything. You're not actually saying you're going to report to anybody or that you're going to form a group of so many people. So it's not actually a notice of motion.
Well, it's been accepted as a notice of motion. So
Well, it may be, but it's not a notice of motion. I'll tell you that now.
Right, Councillor Knott, you've got your light on.
I just think we're overcomplicating this. I don't see why we can't vote on creating this working party. Members, anybody who wishes to go on it at this stage, put themselves forward to go on it. We can, and then the terms of reference can be formalised within that group and brought to the next meeting, full council meeting, as it's been discussed, and a more detailed plan of what that group thinks it might do at that point and voted on. But at least it's starting. If we do what we always do, which is push this back down to the next meeting, and then we have a conversation, then it's another, you know, you're sort of constantly pushing the ball along. Let's start it by voting on this motion and getting some people on it, and then going from there.
I think we're going to have to be guided here by our executive officer as to what we are allowed to do, bearing in mind the complexity of this.
It doesn't have to be complicated. Maybe I've complicated by suggesting earlier, yesterday, of what the terms of reference could look like for a working group like this. I think the notice of motion is as per what is on the agenda. If the council's wishing or willing to consider establishing a working group, then that is where the discussion is at. But the working group does need to have an established, clear what is it setting out to do. So I think Councillor Knott has indicated that perhaps the working group should go away, produce a set of terms of reference to come back to council with.
Yeah, I mean, I think
What is a working group?
A working party, working group.
No, in standing orders, where is the working group defined?
So it's not a standing committee,
No.
and it's not a council meeting.
No, is working group actually mentioned in the standing orders?
So a working group is an advisory group that can assist with various projects as per the council's request to form one.
And that's in standing orders.
I believe it is. If you go to
You know, it's late in the day.
Mr. Chairman, isn't it not just that we agree in principle that we should set up a working group or party, whatever you want? We'll obviously have to check on the terminology. At this stage, we're looking at, in principle, is it a good idea, we support it, that we should set up a working group?
The terminology is highly important in any agenda that you're taking forward. That terminology really has to form the basis of it. And you can't say in principle with anything to do with committees. In principle means that nothing happens with it. And it's not, I mean, I personally agree that it does need setting up, but I want it set up properly.
Well, we've had working groups before, Councillor Watkins, haven't we?
I haven't, I mean, I'm just going into the situation. I think the executive officer's taken a look at it at the moment.
So, I draw your attention to 4C of the standing orders, and working parties are also referred to under 4D. This council has long established use of working groups, working parties. I don't see why that should stop. I don't see, we haven't had this issue raised with other working groups or parties that have been formed, or consultation groups.
That's because there are always terms of reference with those. There's no terms of reference with this. And 4C, 4D did you say, or 4C?
Well, the terms of reference are here to be discussed by the council, so what are the terms of reference that wish to be put forward?
Yeah, 4C you've mentioned, unless the council determines otherwise, all members of an advisory committee, subcommittee or working party, maybe non-councillors, all councillors are only in an advisory capacity and cannot vote on council matters. That doesn't actually refer to what you've got in the... If you want to approve it, but I think you're starting off on entirely bad grounds by approving something that's not in standing orders. But I will abstain from any vote on this.
Okay. I'm not wishing to overcomplicate it. I think we will go with the notice of motion that we set up a working group to consider it. That working group, we can agree that of those councillors that are willing to be part of that group, the first thing that their task will be is to create draft terms of reference for council to then approve as to how that working group can report back on.
So this is actually a working group being set up to discuss terms of reference for local government reorganisation and devolution. So this isn't actually to look at local government reorganisation and devolution. It's simply to produce draft terms of reference to bring back to council to its next meeting.
Yes.
So the terms of reference, to clarify then, are to produce terms of reference and bring back to the next council meeting.
Yes.
Okay. And is someone proposing that?
So can I have a proposed by
I'll second it.
councillor Not, Brown, and seconded by Not. All those in favour? Any abstentions? And councillor Watkins. Now, we need then to for people to put themselves forward to be part of that working party.
I'll put myself
So-
forward to go onto it.
Councillor Knott, Councillor Lewis, Councillor Pearce, Councillor Watkins.
But just to inform you, Chairman, that you saw Councillor Stannard speak to me before he left, and he said he would like to be included in that working group.
He's not here.
So he can't.
He's not here.
So he can't.
Well, you can appoint him once you do the committee, but you can't go on because he's not here.
Yeah.
But
So-
when the committee meets, you can appoint him at that stage.
Yeah. Right, and I should also.
Who are the members?
So the members are Councillor Knott, Councillor Watkins, Councillor Lewis, Councillor Pearce. Did Councillor Brown? No. You're not. No. And I will go on it too.
So
Can you just
councillors Moore, councillors Knott, councillors Lewis, councillors Pearce,
Councillor Watkins.
councillor Watkins, and this is to go on the working group that will produce terms of reference for
I
the
have to
working
ask
group.
Councillor Watkins, if you don't mind. You abstained from voting on it, but you want to be part of it.
Abstained from voting for the proposition because I don't think it's a correct proposition, but it doesn't stop me from going on the committee or on the working group. I don't believe it's properly worded, and that may come up to bite some people in the future, but it's just not properly worded.
Right. It's a matter of whether or not we're following standing orders.
Sorry, I would, going back on that, I think the eventual proposal that you did to set up a working party to look at terms of reference, I think is a good amendment to that resolution. to the original proposition, so I'm quite happy with that. But you've not voted on what
But
was
we
on
haven't
the
voted.
agenda.
The proposal, to clarify, that was voted with 7 in favour and 1 abstention, was to produce terms of reference for a working group to look at local government
Yes.
reorganisation and devolution.
Yes.
Yeah, if that was in there in the first
And
place,
that-
you wouldn't have had a problem with
Yeah,
it.
and that's the group that's being set up to produce those terms of reference. Right. Are we clear on that? So
Voted on it, actually,
yes,
so
we have. Right. Well, on that note, we are now at the end of our agenda. Thank you very much for bearing with us. The date of the next full council meeting is the 16th of July, and the annual meeting of the parish council is the 20th of May 2026. So that's for your diaries. Thank you very much for bearing with us and getting through this meeting. And I now consider this meeting closed.
Meeting end time 9:22.